And today I'm going to talk to you about neurological disorders. I'm going to talk to you about the non-seizure neurological disorders. We often associate neurological disorders with, seizure-related disorders, but actually, you'll be surprised that the majority of neurological disorders present today are actually not are non-seizure disorders, not disorders related to seizures. I will be going over 6 types of damage that lead to neurological disorders. I'm going to be talking about brain damage, spinal cord damage, peripheral nerve damage, cranial nerve damage, autonomic nervous system damage, and neuropsychiatric illness. So we're going to start it off with brain damage. Brain damage typically happens due to trauma. It's very rarely that you have brain damage due to genetics or, under development and things like that. Brain damages most likely happens because someone was in a car accident or someone ended up hitting their head with something or on something, or however it happened. It's usually trauma related. We're gonna start off with frontal lobe damage. When your frontal lobe gets damaged, it often affects cognitive, emotional, and behavioral aspects. Your frontal lobe's associated with controlling your emotions. Be able to, relay what you think. Be able to articulate and speak. And how do you can and your behavioral aspects of what you feel about something. It can be caused by diseases that are degenerative or brain tumors, and but typically it is due to trauma, like damage during neurosurgery, or you know being in some sort of accident where your head is damaged. uh the most common disorder that's connected with frontal lobe damage is dementia. Dementia usually impairs one's ability to perform daily activities such as driving a car, preparing food, washing your clothes and such, and other daily activities, or whatever. It's part of that one person's daily routine. The second type of damage we're going to talk about is parietal lobe damage. It often affects sensation, perception, and integration of sensory inputs, primarily with vision. If the left side of your parietal lobe gets damaged, you tend to confuse right and left, and that's known as Gertzmann's syndrome. And it also interferes with your ability to write and perform math, because it messes with your the critical thinking aspect of your brain. And if both sides of your uh, lobe get damaged, it causes one to, like have the inability to integrate other senses with the vision. Let's say I touch my phone, my brain would not register that I'm touching my phone because I would not be able to connect my action. And if your right side gets impaired, it usually impairs your self-care skills, like, just typical maintenance, like taking a shower, washing your hands, things of that nature. Next lobe damage we're going to talk about is temporal lobe damage. It often affects retention of visual memories, language comprehension, and emotions association. This one's also connected with dementia. It's the most common thing that affects the temporal lobe is dementia after epilepsy. This is much more of something that's seizure related. That usually it's affected by seizures. Um, and on to the occipital lobe damage. If your occipital lobe gets damaged, it's often due to trauma again. It affects your vision. Like if you occur damage to your right, known as visual object agnosia, you can see someone that's familiar but not recognize them, or see something that's familiar, not recognize them, and that's actually seems to be consistent through the whole damage. Even if you have bilateral damage, you just occur damage to one part. It's just you're not able to recognize something or someone or an object. Um, and to go on to the next topic about spinal cord damage. Spinal cord damage is usually caused also by trauma. and such as stretching, bruising, being pressured, or giving having pressure at on your spinal cord, or something getting severed or lacerations. It's it's very rarely that it's due to genetics. Um, one can you know it can you can get it damaged by some type of nerve degenerating disease, but typically it's usually due to trauma. Um, damage to the spinal cord often results in hyperflexia, which is a disorder which causes you to twitch and spasm a lot. It can also, result in hypertonia, where you have increased amounts of muscle tone um, of of your sympathetic muscles, and other small side effects like muscle weakness and atrophy. Um, you know, and to go on to the next one, cranial nerve damage. Cranial nerve damage is actually not definitive. It's actually has to do with what actually gets damaged when you incur the trauma. This is also one of those things that's not really due to genetics. It's always due to trauma. Um, if your olfactory nerve gets damaged, it's probably something of your hearing is going to be impaired. If your optic nerve gets damaged, you're not going to be able to clearly see or see at all, or of the like, and so on with the rest of the nerves. Whatever those nerves are connected to, if that nerve gets damaged in some way, shape, or form, you are going to be impaired at some point uh, at whatever that nerve is connected to. Uh, to go to the next topic, uh, ANS damage, your autonomic nervous system. Typically only one type of uh, thing can affect your ANS, and that's known as dysautonomia. It's when you're when there's malfunctioning of the ANS, and it's usually caused by inherited or degenerative neurological diseases, and can be caused by some sort of trauma effects. Is again like uh, our previous slide. It's due to what gets damaged. It can affect something about your heart, bladder, intestines, sweat glands, pupils, anything really that runs mindlessly. Um, And the last one I'm going to talk about is neuropsychiatric illnesses, which there's three common ones: ADHD, autism, and OCD. ADHD is known as attention deficit hyperactive disorder. It causes one to have attention deficiencies, being hyperactive, moving around a lot, being impulsive, not having an attention span to think long enough to make a sane decision. Uh, you know, Autism causes one to be socially impaired. You have oddly repetitive behavior, you move back and forth, you have a hard time communicating with people. Autism usually is not like you cannot diagnose it until the child's two, because they often develop until that point and then they regress afterwards. OCD is known as impulsive obsessive sorry compulsive disorder, which causes one to have obsessions and compulsions over something. Generally, OCD is associated with excessive washing, cleaning, repeatedly checking, extreme hoarding, preoccupational thoughts about with sexual, violent, or religious thoughts, um, relationship related obsessions, aversion to particular numbers, and nervous rituals such as opening and closing a door at certain numbers of times before entering a room, or not like stepping on the cracks of a tile or something, something weird like that. And to put a wrap on it, typically it's actually amazing how many diseases outside of seizures, or I mean, sorry, neurological disorders exist outside of seizures, and I hope no one's ever plagued with any of these diseases, to be honest with you. But thank you for taking the time to watch my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.